You vote, you vote, you. Anyway, today we're going to talk about creepypastas that I really like. Creepypastas are basically online stories that you would see probably on Reddit, or I think it's getting more diverse now, but I have always read it on Reddit. It's stories that are mainly horror, thriller, mystery, but it's much more heavier on like the creepy side, ergo the what it's called creepypasta. So let's take a look at my favorite creepypastas and horror stories of all time. I got most of these from the subreddit No Sleep, but some of these are also in the subreddit creepypasta. I think some of this I also found out originally on YouTube, and I later just read it by myself on Reddit. Also, I'm a very big fan of horror stuff, but I prefer horror stuff that are more in the literature side and not much on the filmmaking. Because let's be real, some of the movies, some of the try-hard, scary movies are just there to jump scare you. And I don't think the horror genre is just focused on surprising the audience, because when you're surprised, you're not necessarily scared, you're just boomed with the loud music and then suddenly there's a scary face. And I don't think that's the core or the heart of horror. I think the art of horror is definitely to disturb you, to feel your skin crawling and for you to feel nervous. That's one of the many reasons why I lean more towards literature, because when you have to write a horror genre in the literature, you have to have like a good skill in trying to storytell, because in literature you don't have anything but words. That's all you have, words. The list that I'm going to give is also not in chronological order of how I like it. It's basically just the top of the things that are in my mind. Also, I'm not going to be giving any spoilers because I want people to experience the same feelings that I also experienced when I read these. Another thing, these are all fictional, alright? For anyone who is a bit feeling scared, it's not real, okay? It's just something for you to feel disturbed if you ever want to, and for you to feel a little out of your comfort zone. First off, my sugar daddy asks me for weird favors. This is on subreddit No Sleep, and that's basically the title. There's this guy who had a sugar daddy, and then he was tasked to take care of his house, and then he had to follow a bunch of rules, and then yeah, you just have to read it, okay? I can't say much about it, particularly in the story, but I will tell you that this is the first horror literature that I've ever read on Reddit, because this is like the top in Reddit, like the top story on Reddit, horror subgenre. Secondly is Candy Cove. Now this is haunting. I think I also first heard about it on Smosh podcast. I've never really seen it online, so I never really read it by myself. I just heard of it, and then later on I wanted to read by myself, so that's what I did. This is basically about a bunch of users trying to find this local kids TV show called Candy Cove, and then they were all saying like the same stuff. It was a bit creepy for them, and they were all experiencing it. Like they knew that this happened and this happened. They were like relating to each other, and then yeah, I can't say much about it because like the best part is always at the end, and I don't want to spill anything. Just read it, it's so good. I also found out that my friend also read this, and when I found that out, I was like, let's talk about it all day. Next, something walks whistling past my house every night at 3 a.m. I also first heard the audio of this of some YouTuber, but I never really read it myself. And I think that's adding up to the horror that I felt, because as seen from the title is like the whistling, so of course it's very much auditory, right? I think it's also good if you try the auditory one. I can put the link down in the description. Wow, that's such a YouTuber thing to say. But anyway, I will put it down on the description box of what I heard. Anyway, this is pretty much self-explanatory. Something whistles outside of his house at 3:03 a.m. That's it. And then just read it, okay? I can't say the good part to be able to intrigue you, because if I do, then like you won't be surprised anymore. Next up, if you can see this, it is very important that you keep reading. This isn't particularly creepy or horrifying, I guess, but it really disturbed me. And also, this is one of the first creepypastas that I've ever read. So when I read this, I was like, oh no. And I was like much more younger. I was like maybe 13, 14, 15, around that age. And I thought it was real. So I was like, oh no. But it's not real, okay, guys? It's not real. Just read it and you will appreciate the beauty in literature in the horror genre. It's basically, I'm gonna put it in the gist, but I'm not gonna tell the ending. So we're being captived, you know? We're almost, but then you have to read it for you to be saved. To be saved. So yeah, read it, please. Lastly is Smile Dog. I also heard of this in Smosh's podcast. I haven't really read it by myself, but the gist of it is basically there's this like demonic image circulating around that you have to pass around, kind of like a chainmail, if you know that. Chainmails are basically like there's this long message, and then if you read it, you have to send it to this many people, or else, so you can be saved. But of course, it's not real, okay? It's just random online stuff. But chainmails were also like a thing back then before online stuff. They were like actual letters, which is I think is much more creepier and of its fun. Anyway, Smile Dog, yeah. And the reason why I'm also very much creeped out by this is because there's actually a picture of it, you know, like an evidence of the image that was circulating around, and it was demonic. And when I heard about this, when I listened to the podcast that Smosh did, I was scared, you know? I was scared shitless because I didn't want to be like traumatized or like trapped in this curse. So I didn't look at the photo. But then in school, I also found out that my friend knew about these stuff and she saw the picture. And I was like, so like, were you scared? And she said no. And I said, okay, let's take a look at it. And then I saw it and I wasn't really that scared per se. It was creepy, yeah, but personally, on a personal note, I wasn't that scared when I saw it. I also looked it up earlier. It wasn't scary, but if you know like the context, then it would be much more skin crawling. But overall, it was so good. And then there's a lot more, and I don't think I can fit everything into this video. But another thing that I also want to special mention is this creepypasta. I forgot the title, but I will link it down in the description box. Basically, he was watching a stream, right, of a yoga instructor, and then the yoga instructor was like stuck in that position. So like, what do you even do in that situation? You're the only one watching, and the streamer that you're watching is stuck in that position. So freaking good writing, dude. But anyway, if you ever read those or know those, comment or like email me. I don't really care. I'm gonna reply anyway. And yeah, let's fixate on these stuff. A special mention again, if you want to know what really scared me, like absolutely scared, was a real book. I mean, when I say real book, it means like it's actually published, and it's called Johnny Got His Gun. And the synopsis is basically like this soldier, he got his whole body like torn off, no arms, no legs, just like his head. He had no eyes, he wasn't breathing, but he had like a machine that would breathe it for him. He can't hear anything, he can't talk, and the only thing that he can move basically is his head. And then like, what do you even do at that point, you know? You're just stuck in your thoughts at the end of your life. And you can't end your pain because you're very much reliant on the people around you, and the people around Johnny doesn't want him to die. So like, what do you even do? You just think and think and think. I haven't read it fully. I haven't read it, but I will. Okay, I'm a bit backlogged on my reading list, but I am working on it. So anyway, that's that. I cannot fathom that story, but I really like it. And that's the creepypasta. Read it, please, so we have something to talk about. I really want to talk about that. That's it. Bye!